Hey builders, Brick Ratty up here, and with the announcement of the UCS Razorcrest, I thought it would be very fitting to show off my modifications to the Playscale Razorcrest. So let's get into it. A lot of the builds on this I did several years ago, so I don't remember specifically things that I've changed, but I'll do my best throughout this video to get all of them. I think universally people would agree that one of the least attractive parts of the set was the turbine design, where I went ahead and upgraded it, which was a pretty simple addition to the build. It still uses the same sort of Technic rod and round plate design, but I changed the front to use the Sequel X-Wing piece there and use one of the printed dish pieces on the inside there. I know some people for their custom designs like having the little lines that go up and down, but to me I think the design on the inside is more important. It does end up being a bit of a more fragile part of the build just because it is a pretty loose connection. And on the bottom you can also see I added the part there. It's actually a pretty simple build. It is just on a clip piece with a inverse slope, and it's just connected by a bracket piece on the bottom there. And you might have to move around a bit of the plates to get it in, but after you do, it just goes to add an easy detail that improves the overall look of the ship, and it ends up sitting perfectly in the middle. You can see there with the line, and is one of my favorite improvements to the set that I came up with myself. Some of the designs in this build are not my own. I got them off of a thread on Eurobricks several years ago when the set first came out. Another great improvement is landing gear on the bottom that's technically retractable because you can take it off. So there's one that goes on the front, it just has some jumpers, and a long one that just goes across. That way it doesn't have to fold in or anything. And it just sits nice and flat and has a much more attractive look than the original set. Another easy addition to this is just adding some slopes on the wings there, which creates a more flush design and is accurate to the show as well. The rear thruster is one of the more technical parts of the build and is a design that I came up with on my own. I still wanted to use this cone piece. It's a pretty low number of connection points, so I had to kind of figure out a way to get it secured on there so it wasn't loose. But it does spin a bit, but it is still like a pretty even round circle all the way around, so it's not the biggest deal if it's out of place. And I just had to go ahead and use a flick fire missile that is pinched between the two round plates. And the Technic pin part ends up going inside of the other round plate, and the bar piece also pinches through some of the pieces there. And just topping it off, it has a round 2x2 brick with one of those flat floating type pieces that are used for a lot of Star Wars vehicles, and just creates a great thruster look. It is worth noting that with the landing gear on, as well as some of the inverted slopes I've added to the bottom of the wing just to give it more curved shape. The sides don't open anymore. The only place that is accessible are the ramps on the sides. On the other side, I used someone else's design and kind of came up with a weapons rack that just attaches with some snot bricks. And then as far as like the back interior, that's all I've added really. I've changed around the guns a little bit to be more accurate. And one of the biggest changes is the cockpit. I got rid of the plate with a bar on it and created a build that has both halves of the cockpit put together, unlike in the original set where they were separate. This is a partially borrowed design, but I did end up figuring out some other parts uses on my own, so I'll show that off quick. The geometry for getting this correct was a little tricky at first, but it really is a simple build. It has pretty much the same sort of stacking of the round and wedge plate. And I just had to add a single bracket and a couple of clips and bar pieces just to connect the two halves. So you can see right there, snap together super easily. And added a red stud just as like a warning light. You could just do a flat tile, but I ended up going with this. I just thought it would be a bit more interesting. And while I have the cockpit off, you can see some of the controls that I've added and details with prints on the inside. Added the microphone piece in gray to be the metal ball that Grogu likes to grab. And I would say the biggest thing about improving these types of builds is just those small details that LEGO tends to forget on the non-UCS ships. And just goes to show the level of detail and display ability you can add to a smaller set like this. And just like the normal set, clips in on the sides. So after going over that, I just wanted to make this video as just a way to show that this is still a viable display option for a Razorcrest LEGO build. Especially because the UCS Razorcrest is going to be $600. This one will end up being about a fifth of that price basically, with tax. There are a lot of things that you can do to this to make it more accurate to the show, like you've seen here. And there are other options that I didn't even put on mine. There are a lot of people that have modified this set and made it better in so many different ways. These are just the options that I went with. Definitely look at other people's videos. There's a lot of great builders out there. If you liked what you saw today, please subscribe. I've been Brick Radiop, and I'll see you in the next video.